Yeah, whatever. You know what?
We're off to a great start.
Doesn't matter. I could redo that all over again. That's what happens when, as you notice, if you're watching, Jorge is not here with us right now. If you're listening, welcome to Shoot the Gap podcast. I'm Nate Markham. With me, as always, is Mike Wohlert. And joining us this week, in replace of Jorge, is Tyler Heil. Tyler, how you doing, buddy? Welcome. Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to learn a little bit from you guys and just try to throw in a few things here and there.
Mike, how's your day been?
It's all right. Been all right.
That's
all right.
Okay. Well, no better way.
Rough night last night with the Indians losing, but Guardians, sorry.
Yeah. Well, this
is racist.
This is safe company here. Yeah, that was rough.
I was an Indian shirt or hat.
God, man, I was really wanting them to win. I really
was. They had Cole on the ropes, and I'm like, come on, finish him.
I know. And it just, I don't know. And I had to listen through the, there you go, the slander of James Karinchak and saying he was cheating. He just has golden, beautiful locks. He just wants to touch his hair every now and then. I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. But as I said, this is the Shoot the Gap podcast, the IDP podcast for the Fantasy and Frames podcast network. Jorge and Hollywood both unavailable. Hollywood, hopefully, he is safe and sound with some of the storms going through. And Jorge is playing the best, not wingman necessarily role, but picking his coworkers up and in turn, letting us down. We're trying to get through without Jorge. So thanks a lot. He chose his coworkers over us. Actually, all joking aside, I would have done the exact same thing. Screw you guys. But I want to be here because we got a lot to talk about. And from the news and injury side of things, I will say this is a down week compared to last week, which is a good thing. But there are bye weeks. So it's essentially like having 18 different injured players that you have to navigate through. But let's start with some of the injuries. Mike, Nick Bosa left last week. The talk is that he may play. We don't really know quite yet. I'm going to say I would lean that he's not going to. Is it a safe play just to keep him out?
Is it safe for San Francisco to keep him out?
Well, yeah. They don't need him to win.
Who are they playing again?
Atlanta.
Something tells me he'll play. He seems to be one of those guys. So, yeah, I think he'll give it a go.
If he does not go, Tyler, there's a couple names potentially to pay attention to. One, actually, there's two names I think because Mike mentioned Charles Omenihu, and I was looking at maybe Drake Jackson, who filled in last week when Bosa came out. Mike, you think it's going to be a rotation between those two? Let's say that say Bosa doesn't play, or is it just the play of Omenihu who's really stepped up?
Yeah, it was. When I looked to write up my waiver article, Omenihu just stood out. Looked at his past performance, and I'm like, all right, that's who I'm targeting from San Francisco.
Yeah, and that makes sense. He's definitely been trusted in that role. Drake Jackson as a rookie has had some interesting, unlimited snaps, limited play, but let's just hope Nick Bosa plays. It's better for the game. We want to see Nick Bosa out there. Tyler, as you may know from the IDP side, just watching football, Bosa in Latin must stand for always injured. Unfortunately, it affects both of the brothers, and sucks. But football's better when they're on the field. The Indianapolis Colts defense is actually better when Kwity Paye is on the field, which I don't think is going to happen for probably 2 or 3 more weeks. High ankle sprain. You never quite can tell the impact that's going to have on his recovery, especially for a person who utilizes speed in his game. Mike, what are you thinking as far as filling there? Odeyingbo an option, or is that just the next guy up?
I've always liked Odeyingbo. So I think more of a deeper league option. Obviously, Yannick Ngakoue is going to be tasked with a higher responsibility to the pass rush. Only thing with him is he's allergic to run defense and just does not play run defense. Will not play it, does not play it, will not make tackles. He just goes after the quarterback. So he's probably more of a big play specialist, but that's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, exclusively. Tyler, if you get a chance, look up pass rushers and the top like 20 sack leaders over the last 3 or 4 years, and then look at their total tackle volume. And it's scary. Ngakoue has fewer tackles than he has sacks. I think that's probably a little hyperbolic, but not too far off. I mean,
there's a reason a guy that pushes double-digit sacks every year cannot stick on one team.
That's true. That's yeah, exactly. It's a great point. Speaking of a person who hasn't stuck on one team despite being widely considered one of the better IDP options, Blake Martinez now with the Raiders. The one thing I think, at least myself, Mike, you may disagree, I thought he was going to get a lot more play this past week. I realize it's a new team getting integrated into that defense, but I figured the familiarity with Patrick Graham might give him a little more play. Were you disappointed in the amount of snappage, or is that right in line with what you kind of thought?
I figured between 10 and 20.
Yeah.
But as far as what I was projecting in terms of like who would play, like I had no qualms, or I had no reason to believe that like Diablo wouldn't be calling the plays. Like his role, I think, was solidified.
Yeah.
I think even for week 7, I think, Jayon Brown was inactive. I knew he was hurt. So I think outside of Diablo, I think it's just going to be a 3-man mess between Brown, Perriman, and Martinez. So week 7 will probably kind of tell a story of what's going on, but I still think Diablo is the only safe guy right now.
Yeah, and pretty much you nailed it spot on. From I can remember week 7, 8, I guess it was last year. From that point on, Diablo's name was mentioned a lot in between yourself and any of the shows that we had all done, just in conversation, and it's continued to snowball. So great job on figuring and seeing that from an early onset. That was part of one of your dance crew when you could draft early, the Cody Barton Devon Diablo Incorporated. That's the name of your dance club, by the way, in case you didn't know. In case you go on Dancing with the Stars or Dance, whatever it's called. So you think you can dance. That's the name of it.
All right.
The San Francisco secondary, I don't know if there's a name for them. Non-existent, ghost, injured, whatever the case may be. There's not much there to be had. It's a wasteland. And in the secondary, and there's too many to name in San Francisco. I'll just digress and move on. Marcus Williams, who was the IDP superstar for the first 2 to 3 weeks, playing way out of his mind. I don't think any of us actually thought it was sustainable, but now he's on the IR. Anybody in that Baltimore secondary? Is it Kyle Hamilton that you think might see more snaps, or is he still more the hybrid role versus that true free safety?
I don't know what his role is going to be. He hasn't played. I don't think he plays very much as it is. Obviously, he's going to play a little bit more. Chuck Clark just seems to be same role, steady Eddie, and it'll probably be Chuck Clark. And I think Kyle Hamilton will probably assume that role that Williams had.
That's what I think. But last week, when given the opportunity, they turned to Geno Stone more than anything. And I'm like, who the hell's Geno Stone? And he played good. I mean, by comparison's sake, I mean, he didn't really have much work, but he was sure in tackling. He didn't, he had 2 opportunities and made them both. But
wasn't that the Rock's name in Central Intelligence? Was it Geno? No, it was Bob Stone. Bob
Stone. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very underrated movie. I actually enjoyed it.
Oh my God, that was a really good movie. I mean, that bar scene is hysterical.
Yeah, it really is.
That very first scene, that bar scene is hysterical.
The Rock, very Tyler, on a scale of 1 to 10, Rock as an actor.
As an actor, I'm gonna give him a 7 because his action is so great. Acting range, it leaves a lot to be desired. We'll say that.
Sure. I think his comedy roles, he has good timing at time. He's also been around great cast too. But being next to Kevin Hart in so many movies definitely helps out.
Yes.
But as you guys have kind of alluded to, as everybody knows, it's bye week starting this week.
Can we? Can I make a pact, or can we make a pact? Can we please, for the love of all of that's holy, can we never use the term Bimageddon or something along those lines, please, for the love of God, and please don't use pitch count when talking about a snap count being limited, please. That just irrationally triggers me. Also, I hate when people, and I know you're probably now, that's all you're going to use just to mess with me. But let's just not use Bimageddon or like any type of offshoot. If
it didn't irritate me with the snap count, pitch count thing, I would definitely do that to irritate you a little bit. But the Bimageddon is so overrated because, well, of course I mean, I don't even worry about it. I know it's going to suck and it hurts. And Tyler and I were on the Fourth and Frames podcast. And like you said, now's the time when you need depth, and it doesn't not apply to IDP as well. Sometimes even more so, because the IDP ranks can be top heavy, and you lose one of those and the replacement.
Oh, dude, my ranks this week are all over the place. Especially defensive line. I mean, geez.
Speaking of defensive line, Detroit will be without Aiden Hutchinson. Vegas will be without Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, if you want to give him defensive line eligibility. Houston's without Jerry Hughes, and Tennessee's without Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons. So, I mean, you're talking about 4 guys there who are consistently, at least 3 of them are consistently in your top 20, 25, and replacing them suck. Go back to linebacker. Detroit loses Alex Anzalone, which in real football, you shouldn't care. But in fantasy, you know what? Anzalone's been making tackles, and Rodrigo has been a revelation. You know, it's amazing from Hard Knocks to actually stick, and he's done that. The Raiders, without aforementioned Devon Diablo, Christian Kirksey, and KGH from Houston are both out, and then David Long, and then its secondary is Deshaun Elliott, Jonathan Abram, Jalen Petrie, and Kevin Byard. Those are all, I mean, big replacement guys. We'll probably go into and talk about some of these that we may you may have on your waivers or in your roster that you may pick up to replace one of those guys. Yeah. But before we do, Mike, I want to talk about. So last week we kind of hinted at the IR activations. And Tyler, some of these ones this week. Last week was just like a snooze fest. There was a bunch of speculation. Oh, what happens next week when this guy gets up? Oh, look at this. Is he going to come back? Nope, he's not ready. I don't know why I even inserted it last week other than just to talk. This week, though, we actually might have some relative impact. Affecting number one, both you two, is Deion Jones. First of all, let me ask you two. What was the take? How excited were you to get Deion Jones to that on that defense? Tyler, I'll start there with you.
I was what's one step above mediocre, right around there.
That's fair.
I think it'll be helpful. I don't know how well he can still play, but having a guy in the middle that can actually help a team stop the run is going to be very important for that defense, because by God, do they need help.
Mike, your take?
Considering what we gave up to get him, which was virtually nothing. And I think with his restructured salary, I think he's making $1 million this year. So I think it's a really good get. I think they need help more up front also, because that defensive line just is getting parted like Moses in the sea. And with Jones, I think he still has his speed. It's more, he's coming off shoulder surgery, so he was activated. They're acting like he's ready to play this week. So I have no idea how with the way the Browns defense has been, I have no I don't know who it's going to impact. I don't think we'll know until Sunday or until he actually is installed and actually plays.
Yeah.
I could say it's going to be Jacob Phillips. I don't know. He's the play caller right now. I don't know if Jones is going to learn the defense quick enough to be able to command the defense like that.
Mm-hmm.
Taki had played 60% of the snaps, so I'd imagine he's probably going to be. You're going to see his snaps scaled back.
Yeah.
JOK hasn't played well, so he
can't make a tackle.
He's so. I don't know. I think everybody was kind of put on notice. So I could think it could impact really anybody. So we'll kind of see what happens Sunday. So I'm not gonna pretend to know, and I'm just gonna wait till Sunday to kind of start formulating my opinion. If you have Deion Jones, I'd continue to hold him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's on your wire, I'd probably pick him up as a speculative ad. I'm not dropping anybody of note or of substance for him. Like if I have JOK, I'm probably not dropping him. If I have Jacob Phillips, I'm probably not dropping him yet.
Yeah.
But if I've got a fifth or sixth linebacker that is kind of not playing meaningful snaps or not getting that full time, maybe, but I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens on Sunday to see what his role is going to be.
I don't think they have any problem passing that green dot back to John Johnson. And
no, well, John Johnson hasn't even been good.
No one has been.
I mean, John Johnson, he was obviously that big free agent signing. I think I was listening today. PFF has him graded, I think, out of 60 safeties. I think he's 48th.
Yeah. It's been
Johnson, rough. Obviously, I mean, that's a good call, Tyler. He called the plays in with the Rams. So, I mean, he's got the, he's got the experience to do it. So that could happen. So, yeah, there's a whole lot is on the table.
Yeah. Most important thing is, like you said, you hopefully add in a solidified tackler in the middle, one that doesn't, even if he's not the most impactful in terms of blowing up a ton of plays, not overrunning the plays like Jacob Phillips has done numerous times, and letting JOK probably play in a position, which I don't know what position that is. I'm gonna say a made up hybrid type role where he can expand the defense, at least more sideline to sideline, utilize that speed, kind of that hybrid safety that he really truly is. Hopefully, they need it. Like you said, they need to stop the run because that's where they're getting blistered, and we'll just see. This is the biggest one for me as far as, even though it might not be impactful, I just love the players. David Ojabo with Baltimore. He's practicing. Watching him at Michigan, there was no doubt that he has all the impact. He was a first round talent for sure. Early first round talent if he hadn't been hurt. And for him to slip at the time when he signed with Baltimore, I thought, unbelievable. Baltimore, just how in the world he keeps falling. But Mike, it might beat us a bit before we actually see him. But from a depth perspective, for a team that had to bring in JPP for depth, I think that's a really solid piece going forward, right?
Yeah, I think they're getting they're getting Tyus Bowser back too. So that's two big pieces. I think Bowser's probably going to have more of an immediate impact.
Agreed.
But yeah, to add Bowser then to JPP and Odafe Owe, that's pretty good. That's going to definitely help the rush. I think that also could help the secondary because I think they've been playing defensively a little bit better over the last week or two. So adding those pieces, because their pass defense was horrible. They were getting passed all over the place.
And when you lose Marcus Williams, it's really nice to be able to have a little of that. The best pass defense is a good pass rush, as they've said. I don't know how accurate that is because the Chiefs have had one of the best pass rushes over the years as far as total sacks, and they still can't stop plays. But neither here nor there. In real football talk, Tre'Davious White being activated is bigger news for the Buffalo defense as a whole, more so than IDP. But from an IDP standpoint, Justin Simmons' return to Denver. Does Simmons jump? How early is it before you're putting him in your top 20, Mike, as far as from an IDP standpoint?
I'll probably start putting him in. Maybe I'll just see how he responds, see how he plays, see what his usage is. Probably over the next week or two, he'll probably jump back into that top 30 range.
Gotcha. Now, Tyler, you're getting ready to take part, if you choose to, you're welcome to do so, in an episode or a segment that we like to call Money or Mirage, where we take a look at the week's most popular pickups from an IDP standpoint, waiver wire free agency, and we decide if they are actually going forward going to be a money play for us, someone worth picking up, or if you're just chasing last week's points and they're going to be a mirage and into nothing. So last week, I would say I think we did pretty good as a whole. Danico Autry was a money and mirage. You guys all said he was going to be money, and I think he was. He was a defensive line 23 on the week, and for a really more of an interior lineman that is now split wide because of injuries and everything, I think he performed. He got a sack. It's all we can really ask for. Odafe Owe was not Mike. That was my bad. I think I could have had the Odafe Owe tattoo on my arm as much as I was hyping him up. And so on behalf of that, I apologize. That was it's terrible. Defensive line 42. He had a lot of pressures. He was there. He just, unfortunately, you don't get points for pressures. Wish you did, but you don't. But you guys did say that JPP on the other side might be the beneficiary of that, and he was. He was the defensive line 15. You guys all agreed Joe Schobert was a mirage, and he finishes the LB 122. Tyler and IDP. I know you're still relatively new. That's not good.
No, I wouldn't think it is.
The aforementioned, we talked about Rodrigo, Mike, and last week he finishes the LB 52. Decent tackles, not much else. I wouldn't consider that a victory by any means, but I still think he's money going forward. Don't you agree?
Yeah, especially since the dot's been bestowed upon him. Him and Alex Anzalone both wore it. First couple of series up until about I think it noticed up until about the third or fourth quarter. Anzalone did, I think, have it in the fourth, but those first couple of series, Rodrigo was calling the plays. So I think that's definitely a very good sign for him going forward.
I was looking for any type of Captain America picking up Thor's hammer type scenario because they called him Thor in Hard Knocks, and I thought, oh, here's Rodrigo, more of the Spanish Captain America, whatever that may be.
El Capitan.
Rodrigo. L'Jarius Sneed was not real money. He did still finish as a DB 27, and Mike, as we've said before the show and every week, I think if you just stay within the DB 36 range each week, you were probably as successful as anybody else because the variance is so high. So he was still, even on a lack of impact week, he was a DB 27, and I'm cool with that.
Yep.
We mentioned the name Miles Hartsfield. I think that was more gross than anything, but just because we don't know what Carolina's doing. Carolina doesn't know what Carolina's doing. Tyler, Carolina has fired damn near everybody from the defensive side. Tyler, what do you think? You think coaching change DC as well as the head coach impact on an IDP scenario? Have you given any thought to that?
Impact on an IDP scenario. I actually don't love what they did on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, have they been super successful? No, not really. But Phil Snow's been doing a good job with with that Panthers defense for the most part, but they had to get rid of him. He was a Matt Rule guy. So it's now going to be Steve Wilkes. Well, I would love to see Brian Burns take a step up because I was really excited about him this year, and I want to see him start to raise some hell.
Yeah, I think I agree. I know I agree because I like Brian Burns a lot. And the last money mirage was by far the most money of all monies. That was Deshaun Elliott, who not only was money, but he was so money he finished, as Mike said earlier, the DB1 overall last week. So if you were listening and you picked up Deshaun Elliott as a result of that money play, you can PayPal Mike at Mike_Wohler or Tyler. I'm just kidding. He takes Venmo or pay Apple Cash, whichever one you guys want. I don't care. I don't see any amount of that money whatsoever. It goes towards his.
I don't even think that was my best call last week.
Well, I mean,
we'll
see. We'll get to that.
We'll get into it, but I don't think that was my. I don't know if that was my call. I think Hollywood might have gotten that. I don't. But
he's not here to even take credit, so you get it. No, I know which one yours was personally.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was played by all three of us on the Fantasy and Frames and the ECR rankings. We were the three highest of all the rankers on that specific player for the week, because when Mike says something, you listen, and we just took credit for his hard work and paid dividends. That's how you do it around here, guys. Listen to the smart people and just actually, it's not there's not you're cheating. It just he made a great point and everybody agreed, and it was solid. We'll get to exactly who that is. Let's talk about this week's Money or Mirage. The first one, oh my God, I can't believe we're saying this. So I'm gonna jump right in. Isaiah Simmons, Mike, go ahead.
I wrote he was money. I think I wrote him off. I think I might have wrote him off and said, I don't have any FOMO on him at all. I mean, he had played 31 snaps total for the previous 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So Nick Vigil, IR, missing next 4 games. Simmons saw a full-time role. I think he played about 93% of the snaps. 37 in the slot, 22 off-ball linebacker snaps, ended up with, I think, 13 tackles, and just seemed to be just a little bit all over everywhere. And even PFF graded him as their top-rated defender last week. So I don't think he is a mirage. I think as long as he's getting on the field and getting the snaps, I think he's going to be money.
Yeah. It's scary. And I mean, coming off the slot like that and off ball, he went back and he did the one thing that he hasn't done since week 1, which is really rush the passer. He did that, and he had 5 different pass rush attempts, which doesn't sound like much, but considering that's as many as he had from weeks 2 through 4 combined, it's a sign that with his speed and athleticism, that's what you want. Is you want the linebacker that's going to be around. I don't expect 13 tackles every week, but if he's targeted 4 to 5 times, like he was in week 1, and if he gets a couple pass rushes and he creates pressures each time he rushes the passer, essentially in those 2 weeks, give him a sack, throw that on top of the tackles, and he's probably available in a lot of leagues because almost every one of us are sick of his shit. And that was true. Tyler, do you have any opinion on Isaiah Simmons or?
It feels like he screams to me that he is going to be a Hassan Reddick case, where if he can get out of Arizona, he's going to be very successful. If you have a creative defensive play caller that knows how to use him, if we're talking right now, I mean, I kind of agree with what Mike said. If he's actually getting the snaps, I mean, he's a hell of an athlete. He's a good football player. He just hasn't been put in a position to win.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. That's exactly the case. It's so much opportunity that we thought it was going to be there. 15 different positions he can play. He can do it all, and not from the bench. Alex Singleton came in last week in an ironic twist of fate for me, because right before the game was getting ready to go, and right before I was setting my rankings, I came across Alex Singleton's name and said, ugh, nope. And I dropped him down probably 30 spots because I thought there's no way he's going to see the field. Jonas Griffith's playing better. Josie Jewell's playing great. Just move Singleton down. They don't even want him on the field. Josie Jewell leaves with the knee injury in the first half and doesn't play the entire second half. Mike, Alex Singleton steps in. You got to throw money at him. Are you doing it?
Insert the Undertaker rises gif, right? He always just seems to be something. It's always something happens. Jonas Griffith, he's only playing 30% of the game. But yeah, Joel hurt himself, made a tackle, and I think someone landed on his knee. So he's being called week to week. So I don't know what his status is going to be this week, but he's money if Jewell misses any games, because for whatever reason, he's like Kramer in Money. He falls ass backwards into tackles. And he finished with a 20% tackle rate. And he just always seems to be around. He actually didn't play too horribly. Like you just didn't see those like, oh my God, get him off the field play. So he played okay. So from an IDP standpoint, I mean, he's money. He makes tackles, and he just seems to be around and always seems to be making a play somewhere.
Yeah, it's a combination. It starts off with the Undertaker gif where the coffin will pop up. That'll hit one of the running backs and knock him down. He'll get a tackle for that, and then he'll Mr. Magoo it, where he blindly walks onto the cranes that just keep tilting him through unceremoniously to 9 tackles a week. That you go, he was never in position, yet he was never so far out of position that he didn't. I'm sorry that I'm, it's the hate Alex Singleton, but it's an agreement. So it is what it is. Tyler, we talked earlier, Mike and I did, about Nick Bosa potentially being out. So Drake Jackson, Mike is targeting Charles Omenihu. What is your take on Nick Bosa? Do you think he plays this week?
I think he'll try to play. He'll try to get on the field. I mean, and if you're looking at Drake Jackson, I mean, I agree with Mike there. I've always liked Charles Omenihu since he's come out of Texas. Drake Jackson, awesome athlete off the edge, but unfortunately, when you're playing these guys in the NFL, just being a great athlete isn't going to cut it. And when you're a rookie like Drake Jackson is, you need to learn how to turn speed to power and use some of these moves and learn these things. And I don't think he's quite there yet.
Yeah, the nice thing with the two is that they combined for 8 pressures last week. So, I mean, getting production like that is exactly what they need, regardless of who it is that steps in. Mike, any more to add on Omenihu?
Yeah, he keep note, he played 67% of the snaps last week. So he's been on an upward trajectory in terms of usage. Last week, 29% win rate. So that's pretty elite. So, I mean, he's beating his blockers. I mean, I know it's not difficult to sack Baker Mayfield, but hey, we'll take sacks when we can get them. But again, he's another one of the he's a pass rush specialist. So 3 consecutive games or 4 more pressures. So his usage is on the rise. And if Bosa doesn't play, I mean, that's only going to help his cause. But yeah, I think coaches are starting to take notice, playing him a little more. Yeah,
I like and the matchup this week just, again, screams potential just blasting Marcus Mariota, because I don't trust that offensive line. Actually, I take that back. Jake Matthews has been really good this year. Their offensive line hasn't been terrible, but I still don't trust them. And maybe that's the fault of me for not trusting what I'm seeing, but I don't trust it personally. Should I trust Tyrell Dodson if Tremaine Edmonds doesn't come back?
If he doesn't, sure. I totally forgot about Terrell Dodson. I thought Terrell Bernard was going to fill in. I thought he was the backup, but yeah, here comes Dodson, and I think he had like 6 or 7 tackles in the first half. Like, crap, totally missed on that.
Yeah, he did. And it's like, I was right there with you in terms of who I thought was going to step up. Like, I mean, this past week, we had 2 different guys that stepped in and actually played what I would consider above their head, given their step in. One was DeMar Hamlin, who stepped in and played, I think, great. He had 7 tackles, or at least 7 PFF tackles, which we know what that translates into. And then Tyrell Dodson, who played, what's that, 80% of the snaps roughly. And as you mentioned, there was no sign of anybody else. I mean,
no, they waxed the Steelers, so I don't think they had many of their starters playing like the final couple of series.
Yeah, it was unnecessary at best. But going forward, I think Tremaine Edmonds, I think they sat all those guys personally because it was cautionary. And I said that from the beginning of the week last week, that I wouldn't expect Edmonds, I wouldn't expect Poyer, wouldn't expect anybody that even has a hangnail to play, if that means they're going to get him back for the game Chiefs this week against the Chiefs.
Yep.
And that probably makes the most sense.
Yep.
Low Gilman, Los Angeles Chargers. Not a name that I think that I ever would have expected to say, but came in. He's played more snaps. He's filling in. If Nasir Adderley doesn't play again, I think he probably will, but you never know. Is this a name that we should even consider? It's defensive back again, Mike. We know how they are. They're fickle. He could finish as the DB1 or the DB71. Which way you leaning? Money or Mirage?
I think what do we say? You don't necessarily have to pick up everybody. So he's one of those guys that I'm not picking up any, I'm probably not dealing with him. Whatever. Yeah.
No, and Tyler, one of the things with IDP, and that's the one thing that I think that so many people mistake is that they see, for instance, like my waiver wire article over at fantasyandframes.com. I have to address it for the shallow leagues as well as the deepest of leagues, because you never know who your target audience is going to be. And you try to input one from each. And so I know there's leagues where people have, you talked about the IDP, with like the IDP guys invitational. You start 3 defensive backs, 3 safeties each week. That's a lot. I mean, you're talking 36. At that point, you lose a person like on a bye week, these 4. And a guy like this could step in. I mean, if you can get 100 snaps out of a player, that's going to be, or 100% of the snaps. If you get 100 snaps, that's great too. That sounds like that's Houston Texans week 1 percentage right there. That's sadly not too far removed from that, actually. But you know, it's and that just inflated their numbers defensively for the rest of the season. But Gilman, Adderley steps out, had 7 tackles, had a huge red zone interception that we saw. He gave the game ball to him, and Brandon Staley really likes him. So I could see him earning more playing time, but you don't have to pick up everybody like Mike said.
Yeah, and that depends on your league, like you said, Nate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really starved and desperate. Okay.
Would you rather pick up a person like Low Gilman or pivot to a corner like Jalen Ramsey, Mike?
I'd probably play someone like Gilman.
See, me too. Just because I feel more comfortable with that. But there's cases to be made for defensive backs. Maybe we'll talk about some of them here in a second. But let's get into our plays and fades. Speaking of that, where we look at some guys who may outperform their ECR ranking or their overall weeks outside the top, say, 12 or 24 at the top 12 at the position. Little, not the easiest play. We don't want to each week say, hey, play, Miles Garrett.
Bobby Wagner, he's a pretty good guy. He's pretty good.
Bobby Wagner, play of the week. There you go. Shockingly enough, maybe one of Mike's plays is actually outproducing Bobby Wagner. Very close to it, at least. But so Hollywood had defensive line, and with him not able to make it, I figured I'll input one that I have as a play. He was recommended as one of my waiver wire pickups if he was available. Again, deeper league. Number 1 pick overall, Trayvon Walker. Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be taking on the Indianapolis Colts. And Trayvon's been out of the sack column for about a month's worth of games. He's been impactful, just not super IDP relevant since then. But he's had multiple games with at least 3 pressures. One of those games I talk about was this week's opponent, the Colts. Now, he didn't have a sack in that game. On the opposite side of the ball, Josh Allen had 2. Here's the thing that makes that important. Josh Allen's 2 sacks were against then left tackle Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor, according to Indianapolis coaching staff, is more comfortable moving to the right tackle role. Well, if he's more comfortable with the right tackle role, where he's had 13 allowed pressures over the last 2 weeks and looks terrible, then color me comfortable starting Trayvon Walker, because I think he's going to eat him up. And you should see a video. I posted a video in my article about Matt Pryor trying to block, and it is it's an okey doke on Bradley Chubb. He looks in, and all of a sudden he's gone. He's like, oh, and yeah, I think Trayvon Walker could get to the quarterback that doesn't take much to take Matt Ryan down and outperform that ECR. As far as a fade, this is not a fade like I wouldn't start him necessarily, but I think Rashawn Gary might have his hands full this week. It's weird to say that, Mike, because Elijah Vera-Tucker has moved to right tackle. Elijah Vera-Tucker has also played right guard. Elijah Vera-Tucker has also played left guard. Yet he looks the best of all the positions at right tackle. And Rashawn Gary is excellent. Maybe the highest graded pass rusher in the NFL, according to PFF, or at least top 2 or 3, I would have to say, without looking at it. I'm going to go in blindly and just make that claim because I think it should be close. Rashawn Gary's a stud. But if I have to go out on a limb and make a little claim, because next week I'll either look like the GOAT, or I'll be a GOAT, and I don't care because I'll say, it's Rashawn Gary. Of course he's going to get 2 sacks. But I think that matchup's going to be tougher than we think. So don't be surprised if you see 4 or 5 pressures, maybe 3 to 4, but no actual sack production there. So, Mike, at linebacker, who's one of your plays this week?
Well, as of right now, I think you have to play Zaire Franklin.
Yes.
Fantasy Pros has him as their LB 18 consensus. I've got him as my LB 7. He's tied for the league lead in tackles. It's one of those, congratulations, universe, you win. I don't know. If you told me I was going to have Zaire Franklin as a top 10 linebacker by week 6, I don't even know how I would have responded. So right now, I don't know how you. I don't see how you can rank him outside your top 12 anymore. I mean, he's a weekly LB1. He took on the Darius Leonard role. He's producing like him. He just faced this Jaguars team in week 2 and had 10 tackles, 8 solos. He's making plays in coverage. 24 tackles have been in pass plays, which seems to be where quite a bit of linebacker production comes from. So, I mean, at this point, you just got to continue riding Zaire Franklin until further notice. I mean, you just have. I mean, that's about the extent of my analysis on Zaire Franklin. I mean, again, lead leaguer in tackles. I
mean, it's crazy to think that the Colts have a difficult decision to make in a couple weeks when Leonard comes back and they have all, that entire, because Okereke actually played well this past week. Mm-hmm. When I thought he was I moved him down. I was like, all right, this is, maybe EJ Speed eat some of his volume. Nope. Mm-hmm. Okereke played great. Zaire Franklin's been fantastic. Who is not going to look fantastic this week?
So I've got Levante David as a fade. They've got him, Fantasy Pros has him as an LB21. I've got him as my LB33. And actually, if you have other options, I'll probably sit him and just kind of take a wait and see on what David has been, to see if he kind of snaps out. Pittsburgh has been a little bit tougher of a message for linebackers. They're allowing the 5th least amount of points to the linebacker position. David has his tackle rate has been uncharacteristically low. He's below 10%. Yeah. And just looking into a little bit more just to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. Pittsburgh has had 88 plays that are going to the right and to the middle, that are pass plays, short and right to the middle. They've got 77 run plays that have been kind of to the right and in the middle. That's Devin White's area. So he's kind of that middle, left linebacker. So players are going to the right. So I don't know if my arm translation is working.
It does.
But that's kind of Devin White's area where he kind of patrols. So I don't know if there's going to be many tackle opportunities. I think that might be the strongest, and that's using the term loosely. That might be the strongest side of Pittsburgh offensive line because I think it's not very good. But I don't think with Levante David playing more kind of on that right side and patrolling the left side. I don't know. I don't see very many tackle opportunities this week. So Levante David is my fade this week.
Yeah, and you have to wonder how many of the terrible Najee Harris carries actually get past Cam Hayward or any of the defensive line in general. I mean, they might just swallow that up. Najee, we talked about him on Fourth and Frames is one of our fades, and just he's kind of similar to Levante David in the fact that David, if he's on a lot of IDP managers' teams, we'll just plug him in because that's Levante David. He's just had some bad weeks. He's bound to pick it up. And Tampa's offense is so good they just stay on the field. No, both of those statements are wrong. They weren't. They were actually, defense was on the field enough times, and he still wasn't making plays. But Tyler, you were playing the role of Jorge at deep, and you get defensive back. So the good news is this: you can't be wrong because
DBs don't matter.
DBs don't matter in this. And listen to our plays and fades from last week. Our Mike's play at defensive line was Jeffrey Simmons, who finishes the defensive lineman number 8. Fantastic. His fade, Robert Quinn. Guess how many points he scored? 0. If you can get 2 perfect, Mike is now, if you're watching this, you actually see he's not doing anything. But if you're listening, ignore what I just said. And he is celebrating gallantly with pom-poms and exacerbating not his excellent
shoot the gap after dark
again.
And that's still not even my best call.
No, I know it's not exactly. We haven't got there yet. Mike's on it. Jorge's picks at linebacker. He had Leighton Vander Esch, who finished as the LB 68. Not good. His fade was Divine Diablo, mediocre. He was the LB 31. I'm going to say Diablo finishes as an LB3 is exactly where you are comfortable with him as like the worst case scenario, if you want to call it that. because I probably have him as a linebacker too. But that's, not as a quote unquote fade. And at defensive back, Hollywood had Cisco, who was the DB 159, which I liked Andrew Cisco actually with Jacksonville play. I thought that might be better than DB 159, which is damn near 0 points, like Robert Quinn. And his fade was Kyle Duggar, who finishes the DB 22 overall. So needless to say, the bar is pretty low for you there, Tyler. My flex plays were Zaire Franklin last week, who was the LB 31, which I consider a success. And I was wrong, happily, for Cody Barton, who was the LB 20 on the week. We don't know shit. That's the thing. It's the thing we've learned about IDP. Nobody knows anything. We're just guessing and hoping that we're right so we can, shake it off or pat yourself on the back or whatever it is. So go ahead with the defensive back. Remember, you have nothing to lose here. Throw out a name.
All right. So the name that I decided I'm going to throw out as a play is someone that's not even ranked on Fantasy Pros. Yeah. It is Paulson Adebo. And he has come back and played almost 100% of the snaps in both of the weeks that he has played. You got Marshawn Lattimore on the outside. They're playing the Bengals. And if you're looking for an opportunity for a DB to get a lot of tackles, then playing the Bengals is a good bet because Joe Burrow is likely going to push the 40 pass attempt mark. And I would say they're going to target him early and often, especially with T. Higgins being out. They're going to have Tyler Boyd over there. They're going to have the tight end running out to the slot and Hayden Hurst. So he's going to have a lot of opportunity to defend passes. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to make tackles. So that's who I'm going with.
I like that because I think like we talked about earlier is that one thing we focused or at least looked at is the last couple of weeks, his targets per snap is one of the highest in the league. And so he definitely should be targeted pretty high. And he's not good in coverage. So he probably will let them actually make the catch. And we've said this numerous times. I would much rather him, actually let them make the catch and tackle him. I'd rather him break up the pass. I'd rather, everyone, my linebackers get 25 tackles too, but one hand, half, what I'm getting at. Not likely. Who are you fading this week then?
I'm looking at the rankings. I see at number 22, Xavier Woods of the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. If he plays, of course, we're talking about a defense that is wholesale change, right? Yep. I mean, wholesale change in 1 week. So I am not trusting anyone on that defense this week. You don't know necessarily what role they're going to play. And with the Rams, you're not going to have a lot of opportunities because they're just not very good right now.
No, they're not. It's just, man. I mean, there's a lot of stickiness to the reasoning behind both of those two plays. And I have you down. So actually I don't. Let me write these down. Go ahead and put this because we like to do a little bit of, let's say, reliability check. And whenever they're right, whenever they're wrong, well, like with Jorge's, I made sure to highlight that since he can't defend himself. Now, that being said, we're going to go straight into, I think, one of the more just, crap in a can, see what you get type scenario. And it's called sack lunch. Has nothing to do with crapping in a can. Don't get me wrong. But it's where we guess, Tyler, each week we get one player per week. Only can use that player one time the entire season if they get a sack in the week. I will tell you the success rate is terrible, but there have been some stellar plays. Last week, Hollywood took Jonathan Allen, Washington Commanders. Gets half credit because he got a half sack. Jorge took Quinnen Williams with the Jets. Half credit, half sack. I took Odafe Owe, 0 credit, 0 sacks. I am now 0 for 4 on the season in sack lunches, I believe. Haven't gotten one right yet, so not a great start. Mike, on the other hand, might have done well last week. Mike, who was your sack lunch?
My sack lunch was Montez Sweat. And not only did I just say he would get a sack, I called a multi-sack game. He did. And he finished with 2.
He did. It was very, very impressive. I'll say, actually, technically, he was going to take Nick Bosa, and he jokingly said, "Hey, I would take Nick Bosa here, but that's too easy. That's not fair. I'll go ahead." And he pivoted to Montez Sweat. And Nick Bosa comes out and, well, gets hurt, doesn't record a sack, and has one assisted tackle for the defensive end finish of 92 because of the injury. But a proper pivot to Montez Sweat. Excellent job. And if you picked Montez Sweat up, you probably did very well for yourself as a result of Mike. So I'm on that, Mike. I'm going to let you start with your sack lunch call of the week this week.
So bear in mind, and with everything that I just seem to do well, this is probably going to be an awful week for me. So just I'm going to get a nice little dose of reality this week. But you know what? I'm going to go back to some low-hanging fruit, and I'm going to pick on Lyle Collins.
Yep.
Cameron Jordan spends most of his time on the left side as the left end rusher. He's had sacks in 3 consecutive games. He had a 24% pass rush win rate through the first 4 weeks. He only had a 14% rate in week 5, which is really strange, but yet he still managed 2 sacks, a multi-sack game. So I'm like, well, was he unblocked? No, he just sacked 1. He had a nice underneath swim move. The tackle kind of remained engaged and still had some contact on the block, and he just managed to get the sack. Sack number 2, the tight end just kind of brushed off him, went out for a route, and Kenneth Walker, poor soul, did his best to try to block him. And Jordan just kind of swiped him away and chased down Geno Smith for a sack. And that actually ended up with a big stat change, because apparently he got credited for a half, but he got credited then to a full sack. So he got an extra boost. So he got probably anywhere between maybe an extra 4 to 5 points in some instances. So if, depending on what you get for a half sack. So he's just one of those guys that you have to put on the ground, because if you beat him or if you don't allow him, he's not going to stop. He doesn't give up on plays. So I think Collins has allowed 10 total pressures and 2 sacks and 2 quarterback hits. He had a decent pass block grade, but he still hasn't been good really this season. So I still trust Jordan in this matchup. So Cameron Jordan is my sack call.
Nice. Tyler, do you want to take a stab at this? Or
I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, that's fair. No, take your time. I'm going to look at a situation. I don't know if I want to call it low-hanging fruit as much as I want to call it 7th round pick. You're in trouble. There's no doubt he's going to hold the ball way too long. And that's going to be Skylar Thompson in Miami, and he's going to be sacked by Zadarius Smith. The Minnesota pass rush, I've already taken Donnell Hunter the 1 week that Donnell Hunter really didn't get a sack. So I cursed him for that week. I don't want to jump back in that boat. But I'll take another person who seems, even despite being banged up as of late, Zadarius Smith still just has a penchant for that getting in the backfield. And I like the Miami matchup. Number one, like I said, when you have Skylar Thompson, who might not be able to go through progressions as fast, you have Zadarius Smith that on some of these stunts comes across the left guard. Liam Eichenberg is there, who's been horrendous. I mean, Teron Armstead hasn't been great. Now, here's the difference, though. You have this offensive line that has to make this change, and I wonder how this really affects them. Going from a left-handed Tua to now a right-handed Teddy Bridgewater and or Skylar Thompson. I know they're professional, and I know that they should be able to make that change, but I wonder what that has to do in the early onset, if that does have an effect. And we'll see. But I'm going to go Zadarius. Tyler, do you want to take a stab? Or
I'll take a stab at it. I was trying to I was looking at it. I was trying not to go
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons.
Why go bat 1,000, baby, bat 1,000.
Yeah, seriously.
I almost said Danielle Hunter for all of the same reasons that you said Zadarius Smith. So, but what I am going to go with is I'm going to go with the New York Jets offensive line, and Zach Wilson, and I'm not going to take Rashawn Gary. I'm going to go ahead and take the other Smith brother from last year. I'm going to take Preston Smith to sack Zach Wilson there.
I like it. You know what? The line makes sense. It's that left tackle side has been kind of not a revolving door as much as it's just been with injury. The Jets have just been, I'll give them credit for having as many injuries they've had across that offensive line and moving pieces around. They've done a very good job of being resilient at best. And like you said, the Jets should be trailing in this game. So they'll probably have to pass a little bit more, and that's not going to bode well for Zach Wilson. But I like it. I like it a lot, you guys. Let's hope that these all paying out. Let's hope somebody is a Montez Sweat-esque type victory, or Jeffrey Simmons, or
I should have called multi-sack, man. I just called multi-sack, hope I won 1,000 and just never come back.
Exactly. Don't.
Like, yep, that's it. See you later. That's it for me.
That was so this has definitely been a Mike Wohlert production. This everything else has just been kind of just banter back and forth. But
oh god,
what's up?
No, I was just looking at Greg Little, who I think is Miami's right tackle.
Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm. So in week 3, he only played. Let's see. He got a 7.5 pass block grade.
That's not good. That's out of usually 100, by the way. Yeah,
that's a big yikes.
Yeah,
jeez.
And it just went down. His first career, mind you, has never been above 53 ever. I mean, woof.
Greg Little is keeping up the name because Greg Little was not a good receiver.
No, he was not.
No. He certainly was not. Hey, he was pretty good at North Carolina.
Great college. Awesome. Maybe that's what it is.
Converted position. Didn't he convert? I thought he converted from something to something. Like, I thought he was a converted quarterback, but I could be wrong.
No, he played wide receiver.
Okay. Boy, he didn't play in Cleveland.
Maybe he should have been a quarterback. Maybe him and Tim Couch or Eric Crouch were Eric Crouch were
Eric Crouch.
Yeah, I got the benefit of that here.
Was he drafted with all of those Muhammad Massaquas, and was he in that draft, or was he a later pick? Because
oh man, so I know it was. So let's see, it was okay.
I got us all going down got everybody going down the Browns draft of 2009, which was a fantastic draft.
I don't.
2001. So 2002, he must have won, because in 2001 he won the Heisman.
What?
Eric Crouch?
I think he's talking about Greg Little.
Talking about Greg Little.
Oh, I was like, Eric Crouch wasn't even drafted by the Browns. I don't know about Greg Little. Yeah.
No, he wasn't 09.
No.
But no, that was that was the draft we took Muhammad Massaquah.
Yeah. Hey, they got Alex Mack in that draft.
Yeah.
And then immediately spent the 4th pick in the 2nd round on Brian Ribisky.
That was the other receiver. Yeah, that was the other receiver.
And this has been Browns Talk, brought to you in part by Imodium AD. Nothing can get you over the 2009 NFL draft like Imodium AD.
And any type of migraine headache medicine.
Exactly. Jack Daniels.
And whiskey.
Yep. Buffalo Trace.
Now, Buffalo Trace is too good. You need to come away with a bad hangover.
You need the cheap stuff. You need the cheap stuff.
10 high.
Yeah, you just...
Yeah. So
if you can buy it at a gas station, you're in.
That's exactly right.
Mad Dog 2020.
Right. If you can buy it where some of their draft picks are working, then you have a good whiskey. But that'll wrap up week 6's episode of Shoot the Gap. Tyler, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. I know Mike would have got sick of just me and him talking, I'm sure. But
yeah, thanks for saving me from talking to Nate all night.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yes. And if I can drag this on any longer to keep Mike up any later than he needs to be, I would do so.
I'm about to close the laptop.
He's gonna hard close it. Mike, thank you. And for everybody else, we'll see you next week.